T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. What is up, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Thank God It's Colubrids. I'm back in the seat. It's Joe from Meteoric Serpents, and today I'm joined by a different co-host you may have not expected to see. We got Emilio, the big dog, Villarino Reptiles. What's up, Emilio?
The Colubrid rookie?
Yeah, Emilio the rookie.
Now I get to feel how it feels to be a new ball python guy on a podcast. I'm fairly new with Colubrids.
Yeah.
So.
No, so yeah, when MJ kind of like pitched this idea to us. By the way, guys, Alvaro is out vending at the Dallas NARBC. So if you're going, make sure you go say what's up to him. But yeah, I thought this would be a really good idea because we do have someone like myself who I've had some Colubrid experience over the years, and I've really just been learning a lot and taking a lot of stuff in. And then we have Emilio, who is kind of newer. He's starting to dive a little bit into the Colubrid game. He wants to diversify his collection. So I thought this would be a really good chance for kind of a back and forth of, I don't want to call myself a vet, but like someone with experience versus a rookie with Colubrids. Because there are some questions out there, like even Emilio asked me like tiny things, and he's just like, oh, okay. Like, and I think these would be really good topics to talk about on a public platform. So, you guys can kind of get that experience. But before we dive into that tonight, guys, got to run through the usual stuff. Make sure you are all supporting US ARC. Guys, US ARC is the organization that protects our rights to, keep our reptiles both as pets and as businesses and whatnot. So if you are a reptile lover, if you are a reptile keeper, and you want to keep your reptiles in your respective state and this country, I highly recommend you check out the second link in the description below. That'll take you to US ARC site. Guys, if you can afford to feed your animals, you can afford the lowest tier US ARC membership. It's that simple. You should join. You should be a member. US ARC Florida as well, because Florida's kind of the stomping grounds, the original point of like the reptile hub in the country. So make sure you're supporting where it's needed. Tonight is also brought to you by The Chipper. You could go to cocodude.com, use TrapFam24. This is the best substrate in the game, guys. I personally use it. Emilio personally use it. Emilio is also a distributor of it here in Florida. COCO substrate. I think it's great. I think it's very versatile across multiple species. I use it for everything. So yeah, big time support. Again, cocodude.com, TrapFam24. Get yourself a discount on some chipper or Coco to go. Next, we are also brought to you by Blake's Exotic Feeders. Guys, Blake's a great guy. I've met him in person. MJ sponsored by this product, but I happen to use it myself. He's local to me. I get to go pick up quail when I need it. He is there. Make sure you send him a DM, and he can hook you up a bit. Make sure you tell him that the trap sent you. He'll hook you up on shipping, but make sure you DM him, guys. Again, that's Blake's Exotic Feeders on Instagram. And yeah, last but not least, we are also brought to you by Mark Bailey Reptiles. Guys, you may know Mark Bailey's name for the ball python game, but you may not know that Mark Bailey was a Colubrid OG in the reptile hobby. He's an OG in general. Really respect his game. I definitely want to talk to him about like the origins of Colubrid stuff. So yeah, guys, Mark Bailey Reptiles on Morph Market. Go check him out. Go see what he has available. And before we truly get started, we got to see who's here in the live chat tonight. We got Sammy Vargas. What is up, dude? Thanks for being here. Shane, above all scales, what is up, man? That's a Trap Talk Patreon member, V-Unit fam, all day. What is up? Alex, V-Unit fam, all day, 305 Royals. What is up, dude? All City Serpents, Trap Talk Patreon member. What is up? Big E is double dipping. Chantel, Pacific Rim Serpents, Trap Talk Patreon member, V-Unit fam. Guys, by the way, Emilio, head honcho of the V-Unit. Make sure you go check out his Instagram. Check out that subscription. I'm a member, so you get to get Colubrid Corrupted along with Ball Python.
The whole shebang on there. The whole reptile industry, everything about it. We have someone in every phase of the game and massive business info. So,
yeah, for sure. 1776 Exotics. Mike, what's up, man? Trap Talk Patreon member. Neurofy Krista, what is up? Trap Talk Patreon member. V-Unit fam, what's going on? Edward, what is up? Thanks for being here. Nikki, Manfredi, what is going on? Thanks for being here. We have Revision Reptiles. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. Adam from Ivory Colubrid Co. Thanks for tuning in, man. Good to see you here. I know he's a viewer of my podcast, so awesome to see. Cody from Morph Kings. What's up, man? Trap Talk Patreon member. And we have Justin Thurston. Thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it. And then he asked a question below, which
we got a ball python question. Yo,
ball python question. I mean, we got ball pythons.
We got a ball python question already.
Guys, thank God it's Colubrids.
All right, I'm gonna answer that real quick. I love Mojave Monsoon and Special Monsoon. That's gonna be my base going into a bunch of recessives, other recessives. But yeah. Can't wait to see some Ultramel, some Axanthic and DG put into that. Now let's get back to Colubrids.
Yeah, for sure. Emilio, so obviously we know from all the other segments that you've been on, like you've been into reptiles for a very long time. Like you can, for the amount of time that you've been in, it's been 8, you always say the year, what is it, 17, 18 years?
I got in 2005. Yeah,
okay.
About going on what?
19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that time, I've had some Mexican Black Kings, hogs. I had a pair of hogs 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I lost interest and I sold them. That was a mistake. And I raised a Mexican Black King. I've always liked those, and I raised it to feed off ball pythons that just didn't hatch right, and I fell in love with the species. But I ended up selling him as well. That was a mistake. So, altogether, I'd say I have a good 5 years when it comes to raising those two subspecies.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but like my point being that you've been in the reptile hobby for so long, the year you got in, like you're considered OG status in the ball python game, like 1,000%. What was it like back then in terms of the market and like shows? What were you seeing back then? Because obviously, like you were so deep in ball pythons and growing up in Miami and stuff. So like, Florida is just a huge place for both importing and, all these big dealers. So like, what were you seeing at that time? Were you seeing a lot of colubrids, or is that when like the ball python started really going crazy? Because I know the prices were still high when you got in for genes that are relatively inexpensive today,
When I first got in, I think the major craze was size, I would say. So there was a lot of berms.
Okay.
Berms were beautiful, all their different genetic traits or whatnot. Boas, ball pythons, obviously.
Yeah.
Honestly, man, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna tell you the truth. I ignored the smaller species.
Okay.
Corns, beautiful animals, but they never.
Never took your interest, really.
Yeah, never called me,
Yeah. Yeah, but like as we know, and we were talking about, Mark Bailey, like colubrids were the thing actually, like for the OG reptiles, and then like the pythons started coming along, and then that's where the craze kind of went, especially with the morphs. But like the colubrids were kind of first, especially being here in North America where we have so many species that are so common. So it kind of makes a lot of sense.
Let me tell you this, but even as a little boy, 8, 9, 10 years old, when I went to that pet shop in Miami at the mall as a little boy, I fully remember seeing a boa as a little boy.
Yeah.
The other stuff wasn't impactful. It didn't. I remember the tarantulas, the scorpions, the boas. The other stuff didn't grab me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. Now it is.
Yeah.
And it has been for a while. They're beautiful animals all around. I got a list here of stuff I'm gonna tell you. We'll talk about that. I'm really interested in.
Yeah, for sure. No, and it's so interesting how we kind of had that difference of what we saw growing up, because you were in Miami, so you were able to see all that stuff. And then I always talk about how I was in New York City, so I wasn't allowed to see pythons, very literally by law. And even at the pet store I worked at for years, like it was colubrids only. So that's really where my kind of affinity for them came from. And I'll be honest with you, bro, when I was in high school, I have the ball pythons now. When I was in high school, I used to say fuck the ball pythons. I was like, nah. Yeah, I was like, nah, they're pet rocks, whatever. Like, they're not even cool, this and that. I'm like, the colubrids, like this and that. I was just like, I was hating until like, a few years back. And then I really started seeing some animals. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. And it was actually my brother who kind of convinced me, like, hey, like, why don't we get one? I was like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's funny how everyone hated the species, but it's a species that blew everything up.
Yeah.
It made everyone want reptiles, and it made the market what it is today. But yeah, so yes, I'll be the first to admit that I ignored that whole sector of the industry. I ignored chondros, I ignored emeralds, I ignored all types of stuff, to be 100% honest with you. All lizard species. Right. I was mainly, pythons and boas. That's what I was into.
Right.
One of my first snakes was a Diurnal boa.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Diurnals are cool.
Yeah.
Another underrated one for sure. But now, what has happened over like the last couple years that has started to draw you back to colubrids and just in general wanting to diversify your collection? Because and for those who don't know, like me and Emilio are very good. Like we talk every single day about our collections. Like we know a lot about each other, but like this is good conversation. Like what I really want you guys to get out of this is like his mindset versus mine as well. So kind of just trying to.
What we do is dissect the entire reptile market.
That is true.
Every day.
For sure. But yeah, sorry, going back to that. What was it that started to kind of reel you in and started to pique your interest a little bit, that like, oh hey, maybe I should get something else, or that you wanted to get something else?
Well, as you know, here in Florida, we have certain things we can't have, right?
Yeah.
If I could have a super dwarf or tick, and keep it manageable, I would. If I could have a scrub, I probably would. I wanted to have different species. So again, I've always liked the MBKs. I started with some MBKs. I got some Angolans, even though that doesn't count for this podcast. But I love my Angolans.
No, but that's still cool that that's something you got into, and I feel like
I'll tell you this: the Angolans I've been wanting for at least 10 years, and I just never did it.
Yeah,
which again was a mistake because I was so focused on growing my ball python hobby / business. I was laser focused on that.
Yeah, even though the Angolan is not a colubrid, even for the sake of this conversation, like I think it's a really good. Like I don't want to phrase it this way, but like it was a really good step for you in terms of diversifying because you got into a very cool python species that's just underrated and quite uncommon in the hobby as a whole. And just that mindset to diversify, I think it's super important in the hobby. So yeah, I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah, the hogs, I think the hogs are going to continue to increase overall. Their popularity is going to.
Yeah.
I think it's snowballing, and I've always liked them. Alvaro got me excited about them again.
Yeah.
Eslin did as well, and I got myself some snow. I got myself a snow project, some Exanthics, some albinos, some Conda stuff. I'm really excited. I love how voracious they are to eat. I just love them. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then,
we
real quick.
Yeah.
As a full-time reptile business, I think it's and as a hobbyist, if you love reptiles, for you to MJ says this all the time. If you have one species, do you really love reptiles?
Yeah, I say it too.
If you're really focused on the ring of your production fully, do you really love reptiles? I mean, I love that I diversified. And
yeah,
I'm really, really happy. I have different species that'll challenge me and get me to learn new things.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I always pitch about having new species and even individuals within that species. You are always learning. The moment you get something new in, a brand new species, it's going to act different than the prior species in some way, shape, or fashion.
Krista has a question for us.
Yeah. I definitely wanted to get to that. What is one species you'd recommend for a first-time colubrid owner? So, in my opinion, that's a loaded question because there are so many species, and I think it depends on a lot. It depends on your home environment, what you're going to keep it in, what's your limitations in terms of space, because there's a lot of very good species that are super easy to take care of, and I think a lot of people can do a good job with. I could sit here till I'm blue in the face and tell everyone that a Texas rat is the best, is a fantastic first pet. Some other people would disagree with me because they think they're the devil, but I don't find that to be true with the animals I produce. Corn snakes are fantastic, good pets. I think as long as you get a good established one from a good breeder that's eating and doing all that, you can't really go wrong with a corn snake. All of the North American rat snakes, you really can't go wrong with, because pretty much anyone in the US can keep them because they're found across the country. So I think they're really good. And I think there's even ones that people find to be more complex that could make a very good first pet. And we could perhaps save that for later conversation when we start talking about some other species.
Something that affected me was what the husbandry I could offer these different species. So I had to take that into consideration. I really wanted some bull snakes, some hypo bull snakes.
Yeah.
The way I keep my snake room at the moment, it's mainly ball pythons, and the ambient setup, the seasonal setup, I can't have them.
Right.
So
it would be too hot, right?
Yeah, that's the reason I don't have a pair of bull snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was saying. Like your home setup, like what's going on in your room. Like, some people would say with my current setup that I'm pushing it with some of the Asian Colubrids, but I did rigorous testing to make sure they would actually do well in this room. And I was temperature testing and all that. So I know that I could safely keep them, in the same garage I keep all my other stuff with.
Yeah,
yeah, that's an important factor.
My highs during the summer, at times, the high in the room could be 87 degrees.
Yeah.
Fully, the whole room.
Right.
86 to 87. One side will be 86, the other side will be 87. And then at night, it'll drop to like 84.
Okay.
So, but that's pretty hot,
Yeah. Yeah. Especially for, some of those species, even some of the North American stuff. Like I never recommend, even for my Texas rats, I'd never say go that high. Like mid 80s, the absolute max. I tend to say like high 70s, and you can keep them ambient with no problem. And that goes for corns, black rats, yellow rats, all that stuff. But yeah.
I mean, the corns down here, they're really hot. So,
that's true. That's definitely true. But they could be found as far north as, once you get into the Carolinas, like it gets a lot colder there than it does here.
So would you say that they adjust compared to where they were, their locality or where they were born?
I think they definitely can. I think there's definitely, I think they could acclimate to certain stuff. They probably have a broader range, but it also, like, if you're taking just your standard hobby corn snake that's probably been bred in captivity for generations and generations, like you could probably do a pretty solid mix of temperatures. But if you had an F1 or a wild caught individual from the Carolinas, you might be pushing it with the heat, keeping it all year round, super high temps. So that's some stuff you'd have to look at.
Once I get my hatchling room, I'll probably get some bull snakes.
Nice.
I'll keep the hatchling room maybe 84.
Yeah. Because that part's going to be more so like in the house.
Yeah, it'll be inside the house.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so let's see. I know you wanted to talk about some like species of interest. You had some things. Maybe you had
stuff on my radar.
Questions. Yeah. Why don't you talk about them and kind of enlighten the people?
The stuff I like. I like mandarin rat snakes.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
I
told you, bro, the axanthic ones, those would be your favorite snakes.
Yeah, but you know what? I like the color on those.
The yellow is cool as shit, but the black and white, the pure black and white ones are dope.
Yeah. I really, really like that species. That when I get my hatching room, I will get a pair of those for sure.
Yeah.
I like the mangrove snakes as well, but I was reading that they're a little aggressive in comparison. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the Boega. We're talking about all those guys. Yeah. I mean, that's just tough. You can't get those. You need your venomous permit for those.
Oh, you need a permit for that?
Yeah, that's what Paul mentioned on his episode with me. So for whatever reason, and to know, I have no understanding why. So like you can keep hogs in Florida. You can keep Barron's racers in Florida. No problem. Those two are rear fang species. But then when you go into Boega, they're suddenly a venomous colubrid. And Paul had mentioned that with like his 1,000 hours, like he has his 1,000 hours with elapids specifically. So that's why he gets to keep all like the legit real deal front fang venomous snakes.
No.
But he can't keep Boega.
Guess what? That's gonna be scratched off the list. I'm not doing that shit.
Hey, FWC, if you're listening,
Yeah.
Emilio's not getting
No,
Boega.
I am not.
By the way, Boega, for those who don't know, and we wanted to talk about this. So when we're talking about colubrids, very often you will hear species names like the Latin names get thrown around a lot, unless you're talking about your super common species, corn snakes, your typical cow kings, milk snakes. The reason why that is so, one, there's taxonomy changes quite often. So sometimes there's like a differentiation between, what's actually the new Latin name and whatnot. There's also subspecies of some of these species, hence like why I call my bamboo rat snakes by the subspecies name and not particularly. I don't like saying bamboo rat snakes because I have the Thai bamboo rat snakes, which are Oreocryptophis, Porphyraceus, cocci. And then I have OP Valantai, which is the Chinese locality as well. So it's easier for me to just say I have cocci and Valantai because most people who know Asian colubrids knows what the hell I'm talking about. And it's totally okay if you don't know your scientific names because I surely don't know all of them either. But I think it's an important part of learning. That's the thing about colubrids is like I think there's so much to learn just like on a scientific level, and I think that's really fun. The fact of learning, is something we should strive for with these animals. Like when it becomes too easy, when it's like clockwork, and again, not to talk too harsh on ball pythons, but like you only keep ball pythons, and again, that's like clockwork, and all is morph names. Excuse me.
I mean,
you know how to do your stuff with ball pythons, but yeah, it doesn't challenge your mind on a science.
Hold on.
Sometimes. Okay.
Hold on. What I would say to that is that we had a great discussion backstage about the common names and the Latin names or scientific names, whatever, however you want to say it. I think you gave a really, really good explanation of why it's important in some of the species because they're layered, right?
That's what I said.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great explanation because I'll admit to you that, to the audience, that in the background, I've told you a few times, hey, people want to hear the common names too, okay?
Yeah.
And, but I'm glad that you gave me that explanation and, I think it's a great explanation for the audience.
Yeah, and I think when you even, as someone like myself, when I am talking about them, that's something I have been focusing on because you've told me about that on my own show. Like, hey, use common names. So like, I know what the hell you're saying. And it's true because I want my audience to be people who are learning new things. So yes, I tend to use Latin names on things that again aren't your super common species only because that's how many people distinguish them from other things. There's other things that are similar. It happens a lot with fish as well in the like aquarium trade and tropical fish because there's so many things that are so similar and common names can overlap. So that's kind of why we do that. I could say rhino rat snake, and I don't have to say a scientific name for you to know what a rhino rat snake is.
No, I don't want to lose my train of thought, but learning all the genetics of ball pythons
that's
rough.
Something.
Okay,
dude. Yeah, for someone who doesn't understand,
that's freaking rough, bro. That's all.
For some people, yeah, for some people who like don't understand or don't remember Mendelian genetics from their younger years in school, like I can understand why it's tough because sometimes I explain it and I have a hard time making it like dumbed down and making it make sense, and I'm just like, what the hell am I saying? I'm like, how do I make this sound simple for someone to understand? But yeah, I mean, I want to try to bridge that gap, so it's a lot. There's a lot to learn.
Yeah, Krista saying she wants a hog. Go for it, Krista. I absolutely love mine. I hold mine. I hold them all the time. You see in the pictures in the V unit. the cranky one, I still hold her too.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to get used to it, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Colubrids are fucking awesome.
Yeah. Now, I want to hear from your perspective because, you know, there's another big thing. Just like general, like, what's it like to understand and start to observe like these new behaviors and even just handling styles? Because like it's just a different beast than handling, you know, a big ball python that's kind of gonna sit in your hand a little bit more rather than slither all around. So what's that been experienced like? Because I'm sure it's just different. Like, oh, you know, you run through your ball python collection and then it's like, okay, you're servicing your colubrid tubs and it's like, okay, totally different snake.
Okay, I'm gonna break this down in a few different ways. I've noticed that when I produce a ball python and I raise the ball python, 95% of the time that snake is much easier to photograph because it's used to it, right? When I buy an animal, let's say 300-400 grams, 500 grams or whatnot, that animal is a lot harder for me to photograph. Again, that could be characteristics, but throughout the years, I've noticed that I feel like the animal is much more comfortable with who produced it. If it's, you know, long-term captive or whatever you want to say, with the keeper. Another thing I could break down is I have 2 Angolan females.
Yeah.
Okay, the bigger one is a little nervous. Angolans, I like to, when I talk about Angolans or when I what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever. I'll think of it. Angolans are a combination of a ball python and a carpet, or a ball python and a chondro. So I have a female that acts like a ball python in my hand when I'm when I'm taking pictures of her overall. And then I have the other one that's very skittish that acts like another species. You know, the other species I compare it to, like a chondro or you know, a carpet. It does not allow me to take any still shots whatsoever.
Okay.
So when you get into MBKs and you get into hogs and whatnot, they do not stand still.
Bro,
I have a couple hogs that will, right?
You're telling me.
I have a couple hogs that will, because they've gotten used to, you know, and they've gotten comfortable with the way I do things. And then there's some snakes that are freaking scared of the phone.
Yeah.
Like they'll be okay with you and your hand, but the phone, that's it. The phone.
Bro, I agree 1,000%. I'll take one of the Texas rats out, and it's all cool, all fine and dandy. And then so I step out. My garage door is right there. I open the garage and I go to step outside because I want to take some outdoor photos. Nope. They don't want to stay in your hand anymore. They want to squirm the hell around. But hogs, yeah, hogs I can see because they're not as like fast moving as some of these other species. They're a little more like standstill.
But if I work it enough, sometimes I'll get MBKs to take a still shot.
Yeah.
But as babies, the bigger ones, it ain't happening.
No.
Yeah.
It's so hard. I have to. Yeah, there's a few questions I definitely want to get to those.
Let's start with Chad, because recently I saw a podcast where some people say that the hogs don't have short lifespans. I guess it depends on how much you breed them.
Alvaro has commented about that on my show. I definitely think it has to do with the amount of breeding, because bro, hogs, and this goes for all species of hogs, like those animals would breed themselves to death if you let them.
Especially the
like
tricolors.
Literally. Yeah, bro. The tricolors, I've heard some stories like people have to put their animals, they have to put their females into brumation to get them to stop producing eggs. They have to force them into a cooling period to shut their systems down, to tell them stop producing eggs. Because for those who don't know, many species of colubrids can double, some triple, and even quad clutch in a year. And some of them can do that straight off of retained sperm, which is nuts. Tricolors are one of those animals that will do that. Tricolor hognose. Yeah. So I've heard. Go ahead.
Anyone watching? Have you ever seen any tricolor hog keepers holding adults? Any vids? I'm just asking.
Because Emilio really wants to know.
Yeah, I want to know. Because tricolors were a species I was looking at, and I decided not to because of I heard they were tough to start first. Second, they are voracious eaters, and just like they want to lay eggs all the time and reproduce, they want to eat all the time. And the couple that I have held as adults, it was the only time I ever felt like the snake that I was holding was constantly trying to see if I was edible.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah. No, but to speak more about the hog. So I had theorized when I talked to Alvaro, like I was like, hey, because like I've seen so much morph craze over the last couple years. So I questioned, I was like, hey, is there maybe like an inbreeding depression where there's just so much of this morph breeding where everything's kind of slightly related, so it's causing a little less, I don't know how I put this, like genetically strong animals that can live long lives. And I was like, because I hardly ever see people post up that they have like locality hogs or wild caught hogs in their collection. Like I just don't. I see it a lot in the corn snake community, which and when it comes to colubrids in terms of numbers, like hogs are 1, corns are number 2. So I tend to see a lot more like wild caught F1 corns as opposed to hogs. So I was curious about that, but I'm really not sure. I don't keep them, so I'm just not 1,000% sure.
Yeah,
what the true answer is.
I've heard that some people breed their hogs so hard that they typically have a lifespan of 5 to 6 years.
Yeah,
and they're constantly replacing.
It's tough. Like and I don't think people should push to double clutch these animals every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's a really, really solid animal. And just in general, hogs are such small animals as is, Western hogs. So I think it takes a toll on their bodies.
Yeah.
Again, this is all me theorizing.
We are both, I would say, right? Hognose novices.
Yeah.
Don't take anything we say.
And I don't have hands-on with hogs, so I really can't.
But yeah, that's what I've heard. And having experience with snakes in general, I am paying attention to detail as a keeper. Stephen Courtney asked how many total different species do you guys keep, and what made you interested in each species? I'll go first.
Yeah.
Okay. Ball pythons are my first and second love. There's no way around that. I've always loved Angolans. I finally got them. Hogs I always liked, but I was too focused on the ball pythons. MBKs, there's something about a solid black snake. And I just love MBKs in general. They're awesome. I love them. We also have crested geckos now. They're freaking cool little. And everyone will tell you I'm a snake guy, 100%. I'm not real big on lizards or lizard species, but the cresteds have grown on me. They're nice. Yeah,
we have a pair here too, that we got from T.G.I.C geckos at Daytona. They're cool. We got some nice colored ones. They're growing up pretty well.
Yeah. How about you, bro?
Yeah, so kind of going in order of what I currently have. So my one true love, my original love are the Texas rat snakes. That was my first snake species. I still have my first snake. What is it? 13 years later? Yeah. Just past 13 years later, I still have my first animal. I have a pretty decent sized collection of those guys and breeding them. Then I also keep 2 of the bamboo rat snake subspecies. So I don't know if you want to count that as 1 or 2. I'll count it as 2. I keep the T.G.I.C, which is the Thailand locality, and then I keep the Valantai, which is the Chinese locality. And then I newly have a pair of rhino rat snakes, which come from China and I think other sections of Asia in that general area. Those guys are amazing, beautiful. I love rhino rats. Definitely, that's been a dream species for a very long time. And I finally got some, so I'm super excited about that. And then I mentioned the crested geckos, and then I have some ball pythons. So that rounds out to, what's that, 6 for me? Yeah, I have 5 snakes and a gecko species.
Cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to Quinn, Gecko Nerd. That's my dog.
Yeah. Facts.
He has some badass geckos.
He does. Go check out his website.
Yeah. Shane.
Shane's got a question.
I have a list of animals here, or species, colubrid species that I am looking to get into. Anyone that knows me knows I love cobras. I will never have venomous. It's too risky.
I didn't know where you were going with that.
I do not want to have a $500,000 hospital bill.
Yeah.
Aside from all the other shit, right? Much respect to Paul. Love you, bro, but
Facts.
That's not for me. I recently saw an adult yellowtail crebo. That thing is incredible.
Yeah, that's one of the Drymarchon species. So just to break that down for people who don't know, the indigos and crebos, there's 6 species total. Yeah, it's species. There's 6 species total, and really they're, as described by guests on my podcast, they're essentially all the same animal, just different localities. So there's the Eastern, the Texas, and the Mexican indigo. And then there is the blacktail, yellowtail, and unicolor crebo. Why they split, like why they did all those common names on them, I'm not sure. But again, like people told me, they're kind of similar. In terms of other species you should consider, well, Drymarchon get big, and they're also like some of those species, as I've talked about with some other people, like there's some of those true diurnal species. So that's why you tend to see how intelligent they are. A lot of people note how smart of snakes they are all the time, and
say that word again.
What?
Say that word again.
Which word? Intelligent?
No, the day thing. Diurnal, did you say?
Oh, diurnal. Yeah.
Explain that
as opposed to nocturnal. Like these animals will be out. These animals will be out during the day. And then there's a third thing that most people don't know. It's called crepuscular. So that means the animals come out at dawn and dusk, which is where most species actually fall into. Many species fall into that, like my Texas rat snakes, all the like North American rat snakes, they all kind of fall into that. That's why you see so many herping videos of people road cruising all these colubrids and other things. It's because they're coming out at that dawn and dusk time because they're trying to get all the heat from the asphalt on the ground, and they're hunting because, you know, the animals are moving. So it kind of fits into their environments. But yeah, the diurnal reason is why people kind of note this intelligence, as I've been told. There's some other species that, in my opinion, do a really good job at like being smart and kind of displaying that intelligence. Baron's racers are one people have told me, but those are rear fang venomous. So again, I'd say you have to be wary. I'd be doing a disservice by telling someone like, oh yeah, it's okay, and you could be all nonchalant and casual. Like, you have to watch out.
Would you say that diurnal species, since they are out during the day, when it's less safe, would you say that they're a more confident species?
100%. They also get bigger than a lot of things. Like, these are big animals. We're talking 10 foot girthy colubrids.
Incredible. It looks.
Yeah.
I hate to say this because you don't like this, but it reminds me of what I can have, like a nice small sized king cobra or something like that. You know?
Yeah.
And the intelligence, the way they look at you, certain aspects of their facial structure,
right?
That's why I want one, I think.
Yeah. Shane, something I think you would like and that you would look into, I think, because you give pretty solid caging for your animals. Oh man, don't tell me I'm gonna forget the species names. Well, Spilotes, those are your tiger rat snakes, and like they'll call them the puffing snake complex. Those are the tiger rat snakes, and like the Amazon puffing snakes. Those are really cool. They would fit that diurnal niche, but like they need big enclosures. They're very long, slender animals. But they're pretty cool. Like Stephen Cush has some, so if you've seen his page, you know which animals they are. Oh man, why am I forgetting it? Hold on, I need to do a quick Instagram search.
It'll come back.
Yeah, Palm Beach Colubrids has them, and Emilio's been loving that guy. Rat? No. I'm talking. It's a arboreal species. Yeah, the neotropical bird eaters. And I'm trying to remember the Firenax. Thank you to myself. Firenax, Poecilinatus. There's a couple other species in there. But the bird-eating snakes are really cool. They kind of fit that diurnal niche, and they're super smart. They do the slow tongue flicks, like super cool. They're super focused when they're looking at you.
Yeah. Other stuff that, while we wait for another question, other stuff that I've had on my list, more king snakes, obviously.
Yeah.
I think I have enough hogs for now. But, you know, something Paul has, Okatee corns are beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not high on my list. But the yellowtail crebos and the Mexican or Texas indigo is an option.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, false water cobras, I have to look more into those. King rats and blue baron racers. If you guys want to see a beautiful snake, imagine a ball python that color. I think we go crazy.
We're talking a powder blue animal.
Yeah,
it's powder blue as a snake.
It would probably be the best ball python mutation of all time.
The thing is that I don't think, well, you won't ever get that color. Like, I think within some of the hypo stuff, some like dark hypo stuff, like you can maybe unlock like a blue twinge in the color, but you'll never achieve like a powder blue. And that's simply because they don't, like, it's not, Junior would have the scientific term. I've heard him say it, but like they don't contain that color within the scales like naturally. So it's not something that could ever be expressed even with a mutation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I heard that recently.
Yeah.
It might have been Junior that said something about.
I think it was. He was talking about the hogs on one of these past few weeks.
I just don't remember the term he used.
I forget if it was like the iridophore.
He was talking about blue jays. That blue jays aren't really blue. It's just we see it. We see them blue because of that specific. I hate to say chemical or whatever, but
yeah,
that's what we're seeing. But they're not that color. So I don't know. It's weird. Yeah.
Junior, correct me after this show.
I'm not gonna
if you watch
pretend
this.
to know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, man. So, yeah, no, it's really awesome to see, you know, someone like you who has been so gung ho about ball pythons for so long, like want to dive into these other things. But like you also said, you do feel one way or another that it's kind of necessary to diversify because you are doing this full time now.
Yeah. Everyone and their mama is selling ball pythons. I mean, listen, I'm not complaining. I do very well. I'm happy. But I also wanted to just do something else, learn something. I have plenty of time on my hands, you know, something I missed about working. I've been doing full time now for about 2 years, almost in August. It'll be 2 years. I wanted a little bit more to do. I wanted more structure. Breeding ball pythons is easy, guys. I mean, I wanted, you know, now I breed mice. I wanted to do more, you know, challenge myself. So
yeah.
What
do you think is the biggest wrench that's going to get thrown for you in your journey of keeping and breeding colubrids that like you didn't have to experience with ball pythons?
I have now I'll have an extra few steps to worry about during the year.
Yeah.
If I go full brumation, which I'm pretty sure I am, I'm gonna go all out and do it the 100% the best way, right?
Yeah.
Maybe temps temporarily, but I just don't see that. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be a problem.
Right.
Yeah, I think lots of people out there have the hogs and the temps that I have them. So, and the MBKs.
Okay.
And Golans will be fine. So, I think I'm set when it comes to those species.
Okay.
But yeah, brumation I'm gonna be hitting you and Alvaro up a lot when it comes to that. I'm gonna be doing some of my own research. Guys, do your own research out there.
Yeah.
Whether it be colubrids or ball pythons. I mean, come on. If you're breeding ball pythons, you should be doing certain research.
Yeah. 100%. Also, one thing that I think is important is observe your animals. Like really learn. I saw, you know, I tend to see things a lot with ball pythons that make things very dumbed down, and I think it takes away from the experience of actually learning and understanding your animals. Now, again, I don't want to jump on this whatever with the ball python train, but like ultrasounding, this is something you've only implemented this past year. AKA, you've been doing this for 17 years without an ultrasound. And there are people buying ultrasounds year 1, year 2, year 3.
Yeah.
So before you answer, like, I just want to throw out there, like with colubrids, like it's not like that. Like, I don't know anyone who ultrasounds their colubrids. Like, we look for signs, we look at our animals. And even last year, like, granted, I had 1 ball python clutch. So by no means am I any sort of professional. I didn't do this on a large scale. I'm breeding now. And you know, my season's going to come along, but like, I'm watching and observing my animals. Like, I don't really want to spend the money on an ultrasound. It's not something I want. And I get where you're at, where an ultrasound would make sense, but like, what do you have to say about actually learning from your animals?
Well, I don't recommend anyone getting an ultrasound unless you have a huge collection. And I mean, you already learned all the signs and all the behaviors your animals are going to do during breeding season. I don't recommend it because you're not going to learn. If you have an ultrasound too early, I don't think you'll learn the behaviors. You will completely be dependent on the ultrasound.
Yep.
And a lot of people out there push ultrasound only. And I have an ultrasound, and I'll tell you, the ultrasound is not the all end all. I believe that you still have to pair the animals to induce good follicular growth. I'm not waiting to see follicles at a specific size early in the season to pair. I'm not doing that. Yeah, it's nice, right, to see her ahead, but I'm of the belief that a good male induces that female to get, going correctly.
Right.
Because I've noticed even with the ultrasound or whatever, you put a male in there that's whack and he ain't doing his job, that female's staying at 6.
Yeah, it's not going to matter.
I mean, that female's staying at 6. So that means if that female didn't get a male in there, she's staying at 6. For the most part. So I feel like that's stuff that people aren't talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, first and foremost, learn the snake's behaviors, man. Learn your animals. Learn their tendencies. And I think more than the ultrasound, that will allow you not to waste time on a specific pairing or a female that's not going to go.
Right. Yeah. Kind of my point that I was, trying to bring that full circle with was I feel that I think colubrid keepers pay a little bit more attention to the signs that their animals give off. And I think that should be the way for all species. I think people should do a better job at really focusing and trying to learn and understand. Again, it's all about learning.
Can I say this? I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the colubrid behaviors are a lot more intense for breeding, right?
Yeah,
it's
sometimes.
Faster.
Sometimes you won't see.
Yeah, it's fast and intense, and it's a much faster and intense situation or process.
The last 2 years, I haven't seen a single colubrid lock, and I'm just like, what the hell? But I've got an egg, so it is what it is. You don't get these 24-hour lock sessions the same way you do with ball pythons.
Yeah.
But
do you want to address this last comment by Stay Fresh?
Yeah. Vietnamese blue beauties, I think, are they're beautiful snakes. Hence the name blue beauties. And yes, they are a larger species, and they do get a bad rap because they can be. You see a lot of pictures of them with their mouth gaped open, the same way you see my Texas rats with their mouth gaped open. But that's a beautiful species that could be put in a great naturalistic enclosure, like you mentioned. They are also a cave-dwelling species. I think he was saying this along with the stuff we were telling Shane. I'd say the only difference is that these guys are going to be hidden more of the time than than like a Crebo would be, I don't have hands-on experience though, so to be honest, I could be talking out of my ass, but from what I know, they tend to hide a bit more often. But yes, they do fit that large snake role. That's just
you asked me earlier. You asked me earlier from the early days. What stuck out? That's one that stuck out.
Yeah,
that's always been very popular.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, honestly, I foresee Colubrids being more on the rise. I think we've seen it over the last couple years, like more stuff become popular. I've been seeing a lot of Rhino Rat Cell. I've been seeing a lot more Asian Colubrids in general, like fly out of, people post them up on Morph Market and they go super quick. So I think it's going to be interesting to really see over the next couple years where that market goes. And if you guys want to hear some interesting statistics, Clint Bartley from Metazotics, who I'm having on my show this week, that's a pro tip. He shared some like morph market data, and ball pythons make up 74% of the morph market. Hold on,
I could be wrong.
Let me double check, because it was really, really interesting. Okay, so breaking down the morph market postings, ball pythons 70. Sorry, this is snakes only, by the way. Morph market postings, ball pythons 76%.
Wow.
Then colubrids and boas both share 10%. Oh, not share, like they are each 10%. And then other python species are 4%.
Crazy.
That's really interesting. With the amount of species within colubrids, they still are only 10% of that entire market share. And by the way, there are about, as of today, there's about 50,000 snakes total that are on morph market.
How many ball pythons?
I looked at the number earlier. It's like 37,400. So yeah.
Wait till hatching. Everything starts hatching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are like, oh, the numbers are going down. And I'm like, yeah, but like, how far down are they really gonna go?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Before they start pulling back.
Yeah, for me, I mean, what does that tell you? Ball pythons are the reptile market's driver.
Yeah.
Overall. But what I would say is that some of us are gonna start to push a little bit, on the other species. And that's what I plan to do a little bit.
100%. Yeah, and again, I think what colubrids are so important for, because there are some people who get into the reptile hobby who never pay any mind to ball pythons. With all due respect, they just won't. For whatever reason, whether it's like they see a colubrid first and they're absolutely drawn to it, or they just decide, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this, they don't want like a very boring snake, like one that doesn't move a lot. Like they want something that's a little more that does a little bit more in your hands and stuff with handling. So I think it's gonna be a great big part. And I always say this is like just keeping that future coming. Like, you only think about it, like how many people get their first reptile every year? I'm sure that number just keeps spreading and spreading and spreading and getting bigger year over year.
Yep. It's a huge number.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've hypothesized in our chat that I'd say, again, this is a hypothesis, right? A hypothetical number. The pet market compared to the investment market every year is probably easily 75-1. It could be more. I mean, I've tried to dig deep into those type of numbers. I mean, we'll never know that for sure.
Right.
But yeah, man, that's how we constantly get new investors in. They come, that pet person, they want a beautiful snake,
of course,
and then they start they get on the computer and they're blown away by what the rest of what they see.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, man, I think we're gonna see some really great things over the next couple of years, and I think there's a lot more to come with colubrids. And I think species wise, because there's still so many species out there that still just aren't very common in captivity. So like, it's not like we're stuck with the same stuff forever, because there's going to be more that keeps kind of entering the hobby little by little.
Out of all this whole list here, I'm gonna repeat it to you. What do you like the
Yeah.
most? I know you love the Texas rats and the Asian
Yeah.
subspecies. I'm gonna repeat it to you, just for the sake of conversation, right?
Yeah.
Mandarin rat snakes, bull snakes, garter snakes, which I didn't get to. Garter snakes are pretty damn cool. The way you
They
can keep
are.
them, you could cohabitate.
Yeah.
That's
Yup.
pretty damn cool. King snakes, hogs, okates, the indigos and crebos, false water cobra, king rats, and blue baron racer. Tell me what you like there the most.
So for me and my collection, Mandarin rats scream at me. If I wasn't getting more animals of a species I already have relatively soon, I'd strongly consider a Mandarin rat snake. They're just super cool. The different localities come in different sizes, so you can almost kind of pick and choose. I think locality breeding is fun. Just the colors are super cool, and you can line breed for certain things. Like, I don't know if you've seen or how much research you've done. Like, there's some higher red animals. They have a lot of red, like, speckling on the insides of, like, the patterns. Let's see. You could breed for the high yellows. Then there's the high melanin, and then again there's a little bit of morphs in there. There's the axanthic one, so I think those are super cool. And I'll be honest, there are some corns lately.
Are they rear fanged as well?
No,
they are not. Okay.
Mandarin rat snakes, no.
Okay.
And there are some corns lately that I've seen that I actually kind of like, and they've actually, like, they're kind of drawing me in a little bit. I really like the Miami phase corns. They're this, if you're not familiar with them, they're this, like, a very gray, it's like gray and red. They're like a two-tone snake.
I think I've seen
Yeah.
those.
And some of them are like, the contrast is so striking, and they're just beautiful. And then you get to add some morphs to that, and you can make some really cool stuff.
I like corns. I just need more. I don't know.
Yeah.
There isn't enough. I like to say this to people all the time, right? When I'm 50-50 on something, I don't do it.
Yeah.
If
and that's how it should be, especially with these animals. Like, if you're not all in, like, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I don't recommend it.
It has to be 70 and up. That 70 gives me a very good opportunity of not just getting in and selling the animal, you know?
Yeah.
And giving my energy and whatnot. We got a question in the chat.
Yeah. T.G.I.C, Carinata, I'm going to be completely honest, I really don't know much about. I know what it is. I honestly forget the common name all the time. Is it is T.G.I.C carinata, is that the keeled rat snake? I'm so sorry if I got that wrong. Yeah, the T.G.I.C stuff, I'm very, like, I've only heard about them recently. I really don't know a lot about them. So I'm so sorry. I just have nothing to give informationally. But yeah. I know they're like a very big colubrid. Okay, yeah, so it is the keeled rat. Greater keeled rat snake. But yeah, so they're a very big colubrid species. They have keeled scales. They have like a kind of triangular shape on the back. They're interesting, but they don't really strike me as something I'd want to keep. They're very, the ones I've seen that I think are wild caught, they're very monotone in color. I think they're interesting just for what they are and how they look. Just like body shape and stuff like that, but I don't think it's something I'd be interested in personally. I like smaller snakes too. Like, I don't really have a desire to keep like the massive animals, and I know those get fairly large.
Something I did not write on the list that is calling me. I just haven't done it yet. And I'm not sure I'm going to, but hypotangerine.
Oh yeah.
Hondurans.
The Hondurans. Right? Yeah.
Oh, God. That is those snakes are some of the most beautiful snakes that you could have. as a pet.
Yep.
And man, it's just as babies, they're kind of,
They're so squirmy.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I held one recently, and I texted you, holy shit. I I don't know how you could sell something like this at a show. I had never been bit so much at one time. That thing went ape shit on me.
Yeah. They're funny. They're funny. They'll squirm and then they just shit all over you.
Yeah.
And that was
by the way, it actually hurt. When a Mexican black king bites you, you don't even feel it.
You felt it?
I felt this animal bite me. It hurt. And I mean, not mass, it wasn't crazy pain. But what I'm saying is that most people out there might be like, oh shit, a little colubrid bit you. Big deal. I don't know. This thing was so scared that it was just chomping.
Yeah. Yeah, I got bit by a Texas rat lately, and like usually I say like it's whatever, but like she chewed on me a little bit. I had some big like teeth marks in my arm. I was like, oh shit. I'm like, these things can like do a bit if they bite you real good.
I was like, you little shit. You're going back in the box.
No, Hondurans are some of my favorites. That was one of the species that we kept and bred at the pet store I worked at. So I had a lot of hands-on experience. I hatched some eggs. They were fun and raised some hatchlings. But yeah.
Pyro, and knobs are fun.
Yeah, so that's those are types of king snakes. Those are the mountain king snakes.
Okay.
You've probably seen them over at Mike's.
Yeah.
So they're like the black white.
They're very nice, but they're just not as nice as the Hondurans, in my view.
Yeah, their care is also a little bit different because of the region they come from. They come from like the high elevation parts in like this south. Correct. It's like in that like Colorado area and down south, like where the high elevation is, and like Arizona and stuff. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's why they're called the Mountain Kings.
They like the colder temps, maybe.
I believe so. I believe they prefer it a bit cooler.
Yeah. Crazy. Because if anyone's out there has been to Colorado, just up and down, the temperatures swing every like 5 to 10 degrees all the time. This shit's fucking dope.
Dude, I'll tell you what, Colorado was one of the most beautiful places I've been to. I went there a few years ago, and I went with like old teammates of mine. I ran college track, for people who don't know, and we did some like training up there in the elevation. Dude, I was we went to like some trail hiking, or I think we did a little bit of a run there. My friend said he saw like a big bull snake slithering on the ground when I got back somewhere, and I'm like, there's no way. He said it was pretty large, and he saw like the tail end of it, and I was so mad that I wasn't there for it.
Yeah,
I was just like, oh, come on.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I could tell you, when I was in Phoenix, I saw a wild king snake pass right in front of me. It was hunting those some little rodent species that were jumping in and out and shit in a park, and I was so amazed. I was like, man, that's so it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. But what else you got, man? Any other questions for any other people who want to learn about colubrids? Anyone who's like new to it?
I mean, what would you say to people out there like have the ball python mentality? Like, okay, I'm gonna massively produce, or have. I mean, people with colubrids don't really do it that way, right? Unless it's a subspecies that is really bought by the pet market, right?
Yeah.
Are there any colubrid species out there where people are, other than corn snakes, right, trying to come up with like cool genetic combos? You know, because we got to take hognose and corn snakes out of the picture.
Right.
That's the easy answer, right?
Right. I think there are some cool morphs within certain species that like are just not really known as much. Like people just don't know they exist. Like I didn't know there were as many California king snake morphs till a few years ago. There was a long time where I thought there was just some very basic things, and then all of a sudden I started seeing these people on Facebook with all these different genes and stuff. And then to add to that, I also think an interesting part about colubrid breeding that's not as focused on with the ball pythons, because it is so morph crazy. With the colubrids, there's a lot more line breeding that goes on. And I think taking these best phenotypes and trying to create better animals with them and really trying to push the lines of whatever it is, whether it's color, pattern, an expression of some certain trait, whatever it is. I think that's a really fun part about colubrids and what pushes some people forward within species where there aren't morphs, and it's kind of just dealing with, some animals here and there. And some people it's about locality. So different people have different, motivations within it. That's what I find interesting, is that there's different trains of thought, and I think it's quite interesting to kind of see where people fall on that scale. And sometimes it depends on the species.
Lee Abbott, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
The leader when it comes to Okatee corns, right? And some
palmettos. Yeah, he's an OG.
And the palmettos.
I'm not really sure about like who started with the palmettos,
I'm not saying.
But yeah, I mean, there's literally a line where they're called Abbott's Oketees.
Very well known in Florida, I'll tell you that. That guy is.
Yeah.
He has me stopping at his table every show to look at what he has. The guy's dope.
Yeah. Being at Daytona this past year, when I was trying to pay attention a little bit more. My first year, I think, was more overwhelming, and I was just kind of bouncing between tables. That's when we first moved here, and I didn't know anyone. This past year, like noticing his table, I'm like, oh shit, that's Lee Abbott. I'm like, that's like the OG. That's an OG in the corn snake game. So, yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anything else you want to address, bro? Like.
I don't think so for tonight. Does anyone else have any final thoughts or questions? Anything for Emilio, again, as a newer colubrid keeper, if you want to hear his perspective on something?
Yeah.
Because again, I thought that was the great part about this show, is we kind of get to hear the mentality coming from someone who's newer into it, coming especially from ball python. So
yeah. My main thing is I want to be able to also master these species and give them the best care I can without changing my parameters for the rest of my animals. So it all has to fall in place, and I'm not gonna bring in an animal that can potentially fail with me. So
right.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you're doing your research and asking the breeders. One of the better bull snake breeders in the state of Florida told me, "Hey man, you'll fail. You won't be able to keep them." And I was like, okay, maybe in a couple years.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah. Stay Fresh told us to check out the Tessera Miamis. Yeah. Tessera's a cool pattern alterer. So yeah, I think those would be cool. Ridley Eye, which that's spelled wrong, but the cave dwelling rat snakes. Emilio, I'm not sure if you're familiar with those. It's in the same complex as like the Vietnamese blue beauties. Their face looks pretty similar. Like they have the stripe behind the eye. And they have a very similar head structure. They're just different subspecies, but yeah, the Ridley eye are cool, like the cave dwellers, and the Grabowski eye, if I pronounce that correctly. That's the oh man. That's the problem. See, sometimes I know Latin names and not common names. I don't even know what they're calling Grabowski eye. That one's like a newer one too, this side of the US.
If
But
you don't know, imagine me.
no, but these are some super pretty snakes, and I would definitely consider the cave dwellers. Just they're not taking priority in terms of what I need to add list, which grows by the day because I see new things and I'm just like, oh man.
Yeah.
California red-sided garters. How is this in the hobby doing? Diverse foods. I believe some people have them. Garters are one thing I definitely lack knowledge on when it comes to North American species.
They sell. I've heard they sell really well.
If
Kevin at Nerd recently did a reel with some cool ones.
But was it those? Because there's so many different garter snakes. I don't know if you knew that. Like, bro, there's different. I don't know how it goes taxonomically with like Latin names again. And I don't know if they just get separated by like localities and stuff. But there's so many different garter snakes across the U.S.
Yeah, I think they go. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw a video today where they go all the way to Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Like
there are some.
Canada.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, that's incredible.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. The California red-sided garters, if I had to pick someone who I'm pretty sure just posted them, Tim Spuckler. I'm pretty sure he just posted about them. How are they doing in the hobby? That I'm not 100% sure about. I don't think garters do, like, they do well in the fact that they're a pretty animal, and I think it attracts some keepers, but I think it's also a hard sell to some keepers because they're not, like, especially as babies, like, they're not rodent eaters. Animals that aren't rodent eaters, that's a downside to their popularity in the hobby just because of how accessible rodents are in general.
You don't see a lot of garters at the shows. I think
no, you do not.
That's mainly online.
Yeah, I would say so as well. And garters you might see at shows, especially down here, are most likely wild caught.
Yeah.
From a reseller's table.
Yeah, I've seen how they're fed. Like maybe these are the common ones. Man, they just cut up pinkies and they throw them in there.
Yeah, they do that, or they chop up like chunks of like fish.
Yeah,
and they'll just like put it in like a little plate. No, not even that. Like I'm talking like, oh man, is it like salmon or some shit? Like,
bro,
I don't know.
They eat anything.
Yeah, they'll put like little fish chunks on like a plate, literally, and they'll just come in as a group and like swarm it,
bro.
And just pick up these little chunks.
I think that's pretty damn cool.
It's definitely cool, and they're one of those animals that do super well, like bioactive setup with a group of garters, like a communal group of them is great. I think it's super interesting that they're live bearers. So,
that's cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. What's up, Josh? Over at Scales, Fins, and Feathers. Freshwater smelt. I don't know what you mean by that.
Another pretty cool animal is the elephant trunk snake. What is that?
Yeah, those. Dude, I have no idea.
Bro, that thing.
I genuinely don't know.
That might be the weirdest snake that we have in captivity. Yeah,
it's just straight up like an aquatic animal. I don't even know what it is.
That's pretty cool, bro. Yeah.
It might be called a snake, but like, yeah, I don't even know. Like, is it like, Yeah, like, is it actually scientifically like a snake? Because like that's the thing. Like some common names, like they don't really make sense.
Yeah.
Like like even the bamboo rat snakes, bro, that I keep, like you may not have known this. Like them being called rat snakes is probably a misnomer. Like they're so much more along the lines of like those racers we were talking about, like the cave dwellers. Just even in terms of looks and stuff, they fit so much more within that, but they're in their own species. Oh, freshwater smelt. That's the actual fish. Are the frozen fish breeders cut up for baby garters? Gotcha.
Any colubrids, any important colubrid species we did not touch on tonight?
Oh man.
Other than your beloved Texas rats.
No. We talked about a whole lot, to be honest. There's so much to cover. You can miss so much of a group of snakes. And me just being honest, guys, I could give the most knowledge on the snakes I keep and the ones I've really been interested in that I've learned about over the years. I'm no expert by any means, so I'll never claim to be one on species I don't know about. So I'm sorry if I don't know about something you guys mentioned in the chats. I try my best, but I don't know everything. And there's so many species out there, so it's almost hard to know everything.
All right, guys, we're going to give a chance for one last question, and then we're about to call it a night.
Yeah. But this was a really fun episode, guys.
Fun,
for sure.
Insightful for myself. Great conversation, bro. You know?
Yeah, definitely. That's what it's all about, is having that's why I was excited for this, is because, well, me and you talk so often, and I think we have good conversations one way or another. So it's good to do it on, this public platform.
Yeah. Yeah, MJ was like, you'll do good. You do great, bro. I was like, think? Yeah. Shout out to
all right, guys. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, if that is all, I hope you all have a fantastic evening, great weekend.
Next Friday is Junior JMG.
Next Friday, make sure you tune in to JMG for some hognose talk. You know how he does it. He goes on, a nice little 2-hour rant and loves to spit. He spits knowledge on hogs. So if you really want some deep hog knowledge, join that chat and ask a question, and he will go on about it. He's superb.
I'll tell you this, I'm tuning in and I'm learning a ton.
Yeah, so am I, for sure. All right, guys, but this has been another fantastic episode of Thank God It's Colubrids. Big E, what do you have to say to everyone who is here supporting us tonight?
For spending part of your Friday night with us. And don't be afraid to try new things, guys.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. I always say that. Like, I'm super open. Like, if anyone, again, any ball python breeders that want to like take a dive into colubrids and you're really trying to figure out what to get, I will help you. I will do my best to help you and guide you for the correct species for you. Just send me a DM. And I really and truly mean that. I'd be more than happy, and I'm not going to try to sell you one of my snakes if it's not what you want. I promise that. I'm going to put you in touch with the right person, the right breeder. I'm going to get you a good snake that you want and that fits in your collection. But yeah, guys, thank you so much again. We really appreciate you guys being here. As always, this has been another episode. This is Thank God It's Colubrids, episode number 5. With me and Emilio from Villarino Reptiles. Again, I am Joe DeStefano from Meteoric Serpents. Once again, hope you all have a fantastic night, great weekend. Peace out, and we'll see you on the next one. Later.